Hey, what's up, good people? Welcome back to Mono to Atmos, and today is another exciting day because we're going to be talking about stereo recording techniques. Why do I want us to talk about stereo? For the longest time, Sub-Saharan Africa has been all about mono, and I remember there was this one time I asked someone to go and record for me stereo ambiances, and they made one of the biggest mistakes that anyone can make. So they took the recorder, went into the field, and they had one shotgun microphone. So what they did is they made sure that the shotgun microphone was recording onto a stereo track on the recorder, and then they recorded, and they brought back to me this file and said it is stereo. I was blown beyond comprehension. I could not understand how one of the best sound recordists in the country could not understand or differentiate mono and stereo. And I remember him telling me that he's not the problem. The problem is that the people that put the stereo track in the recorder were the problem. And this just blew my mind, and I realized, yeah, it's about time now we start figuring out how do we move from mono to stereo. Ideally, I just wanted to understand that dialogue is usually recorded in mono. Right now, you're listening to my dialogue in mono. It's on a lapel. It's on a mono channel. And if I have one microphone like this, if I just have one microphone like this is mono, okay? Goes straight into my recorder. This would be mono. But then we are also going to look at how do we now get into a perspective of stereo. We'll be recording using the Zoom P4 pod track, a very interesting device. It's on the low, it's cheap, but it's very powerful in its own way. Again, remember when you're on the field, it's very important that you have good headphones. Headphones are super important. And why are they important? You want to always monitor what you're doing, okay? You do not want to have a situation where you're not able to monitor what you're doing. So always carry very comfortable, good quality headphones. And we have, right now I'm recording straight into the camera using a lapel. At some point we're going to switch to using what I have here. So again, if you're going to do stereo, what are some of the things that you need? Ideally, you need your recorder. So whichever recorder you use, it's up to you. They will one day talk about recorders and the myths around recorders and why sometimes it makes no sense buying recorders worth 300,000 Kenya shillings or $2,000. You know, we'll get into that in another conversation. Today I want us to talk about stereo recording techniques, what they're about, and how to go about them. So here we have a bar, a stereo bar. This allows me to have two microphones. This allows me to have two microphones because again, stereo just means two, mono means one. So I'm able to have two microphones on this bar. Yeah, I'm able to have two microphones. I have windshields because we're outdoors, so I need windshields. These are wind jammers. They will help make sure that my microphones are not affected by the wind, and I'm able to capture very crisp, clear sounds. I brought this AKG microphone. This is just to be able to showcase what mono sounds like vis-a-vis what stereo actually sounds like. So this has already been connected, but now I need to connect my microphones. So on my microphones, I have a stereo pair. So you want a matched pair of microphones. For you to do stereo recording, you must get a matched pair of microphones where possible because you don't want to have phase issues. You know, you want your capsules to be matched as much as possible. I'm using the CAD E70s, some fantastic not shotgun, but these are small diaphragm microphones. They actually sound very similar to this Sennheiser 416. So if your primary shotgun microphone is the 416, you won't go wrong with the E70s. They're pretty amazing. I also have here, I have shock mounts for the microphones. This should just be able to help alleviate vibrations from the ground, you know. These are some of the things that you need. If you look at the costs, so that there's just a simple comparison of some of these things, so that if you're a producer or you're a director and you'd want to understand how to budget for, you know, having stereo ambiances recorded on your set, you need to understand that This microphone is about $300. That's in the States. By the time you get it to sub-Saharan Africa, the cost might change. So one microphone is about $300. The two of these make about $600. So give or take $1,000 by the time you get them here. And then you need your recorder. This I think is about $300 or $200. These headphones are about $100. And then, yeah, so you need to understand the cost implications of some of the things that you're getting yourself into. And why is stereo important? Stereo is important because it gives you a sense of direction. It's slightly immersive. It's not fully immersive. By immersive, we mean when we start talking about 5.1 or we talk about Dolby Atmos. Dolby Atmos is 360 surround, fully immersive. But here it just gives you a sense, a very slight sense of immersiveness, because you're able to hear things pan left, right, you can have things the center, so it gives you an element of interaction with the sound. So let's start by setting up our stereo. We'll start with the stereo configuration that is called the XY configuration. And XY configuration basically just means that you want your microphones to cross at 90 degrees. So here you want them to cross at 90 degrees. The diaphragms need to cross at 90 degrees, and so that you don't have any delays in terms of when the sound signals hit your microphones. This is usually, you use this in small rooms or where you don't want a very wide stereo image, where you want not a very wide stereo image, especially small rooms, indoors, you want to use XY. So that's what we are going to start with first. So I'm going to just have my shock absorbers connected on my stereo bar. I'm using the K&M stereo bar. Then I'm going to have my microphones go in. So the idea here is to try and make sure that they cross at 90 degrees. So the angle here should be around 90 degrees. So what I'm going to do now is try and fix this. I'm just going to try to fix these windshields to make sure that I have protection against the wind. Or instead of using windshields, let me use these ones. They come with the microphones. These ones are much easier, much faster. On the AB, we'll use let me just use these ones. And then make sure that they're at 90 degrees first. So let's just have that. And then let us just connect. So just right above us, there's a highway. The southern bypass is right above us. We are in Ondire Swamp, and Ondire Swamp is an interesting place. People just come here to chill. If you want to feel nature, there's a river right next here. There's crickets all over the place. So a very interesting place to, if you want to come on Sundays or just come chill. Amazing space. So let's connect our microphones. So when it comes to XY, the configuration of your microphones usually interchange to some extent, because now my right microphone is recording my left signal and my left microphone is recording my right signal. So you want to also get that when you're doing your microphone configuration. So for my right microphone, I'm gonna have it as my left on the recorder. Then my left microphone, I'm gonna have it as my right on my recorder. Then I'm gonna make sure that I'm monitoring. The other thing you need to make sure that you do is that whenever you're working in stereo, your preamps must be of the same level. So the left and right preamps must be of the same level. So let's just put on our phantom power. Now we have our phantom power on. Let's try to bring up our microphones. So now I'm just gonna do a quick clap just to sync my camera sound and my microphones right here. So that will just help me with syncing, and just to give you maybe a feel of what stereo sounds like, I'm just gonna turn this slowly. Okay. So when it comes to stereo setups, you might be able to tell that things move around. And now you can be able to listen to the ambience of this space, and you can hear that it's pretty crazy. Maybe I'll just be quiet for a few minutes so that you can listen to the crazy ambience of Ondire in stereo. Able to hear me moving around in funny configuration. I don't know if you can hear that. It's a swampy area, so it's crazy sometimes. So you should be able to hear my voice maybe moving around of some sort. So this is the XY configuration. Yeah, this is the XY configuration, and it picks the ambience perfectly. So you want to use this in small rooms. If you're doing maybe a guitar, you could use this. If you're doing a small choir in a small room, you could do this. So mainly we say XY, you want to use it indoors. You could also use it outdoors, because again, there's no right or wrong. It's up to you to figure out what really works for you. Now I want us to look at another stereo configuration, which is called the AB or the ORTF. Not the AB, the ORTF, because this one is slightly spaced spare, which means that The sound signals will hit the microphones at slightly different times. With the XY, the sound signals hit the microphones at the same time because they are very close. Okay, so we're gonna have what we call a spaced pair. And I'm just gonna stop this and then we'll resync later for purposes of you listening to this. So for spaced pair of the ORTF, what we're gonna do is we are going to have the microphones not at 90 degrees, we're gonna have them at pointing away from each other. And you're gonna have, you want the capsules to be at about 17 centimeters apart. From this capsule to this capsule, they need to be around 17 centimeters apart. And we should be able to hear the difference. So here, left goes to left, right goes to right. This one I think I can have the dead cuts. I can have the dead cuts on this. Come. Just gonna have my assistant hold the microphones for me so that I can put on these dead cuts. So utanishikia tu, vishikia hapa ndio niweze kuvalisha. Hizi zinakataa kuvalika. Sawa, achilia hiyo. My assistant's name is Eric. So yeah. Yeah, so this just helps with the wind. So this can be, you can look at this as the ORTF. So let's put on the microphones. And then now I'm just gonna clap for sync again as I recording. So for sync. So this is the wider stereo image that you get from using two microphones that are the same, like especially the capsule. You want also to connect them to the same preamp. And it's gonna give you slightly wider stereo image. I'm just gonna keep quiet so that we can listen to what they sound like. Now I'm just gonna turn the microphone so that you can hear. Remember I said that there's a highway up here, so let's just turn the microphone so that you can listen to how it's picking the highway. Let me just move them a bit so that we see how they pick the swamp, especially the cricket. There is crazy crickets over here. Just bring this back. So this is what we call ORTF, stereo recording technique, which is slightly spaced pair where microphones, the sounds reach the microphones at different levels. You should be able to hear a wider stereo image. And we're just going to try one last thing. We're going to test with mono. So make sure when you're listening to these sounds, at least you have your headphones on, because on your phone you won't be able to tell the difference. Or make sure you are in a studio where there's a stereo setup. So let me just quickly try to give you an example of a mono image, the space that I am in. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So, okay. So I'm just gonna clap again for sync. So now this is a mono signal. This is how we normally record sounds, especially in sub-Saharan Africa. But dialogue is usually recorded in mono. You want to record your ambiances, you want to record your choirs in stereo, and this is what the ambience that you listen to would sound like in stereo. I'm just gonna be quiet for a minute so that you can listen to what this space sounds like in mono. So now if you're a serious film director, or if you're serious about sound, you maybe by now might have come to understand that stereo has a better experience than mono, and maybe it is the way for you to go. And it's also the way that sub-Saharan Africa needs to start going. For the longest time, we've just been transmitting things in mono. We've been doing our works in mono. I remember being given some work. I was supposed to do some work as quality control, and it blew my mind how much bad sound we have from sub-Saharan Africa. And it's about time that we wake up, not just as a producer or as a director, but also sound people, man. You need to, figure these things out, because when we ask for stereo, we're asking for something very specific that is able to give us a slightly immersive aspect. If you're going for 5.1, it means you'll have the front, left, right, and you also need a rear, left, right. If you asked for Dolby Atmos, it means you need your left, right, front, rear, left, right, and your tops. So it's important that we understand these technologies so that we are able to actually fit into the global soundscape, the conversation and the global sound conversation, so that our films can also feature. You see, the saddest thing about sub-Saharan Africa is we figured out the picture, and we buy very expensive cameras for the same, but when it comes to sound, we have no clue. This is one of the places you can come and learn these things. If you have any questions also, feel free to hit us up. So I hope you've learned something today about the mono and the stereo recording techniques. It just looks like it's gonna rain, so we need to get out of here. Until next time, this has been Mono to Atmos, and it's been yours truly, Lawrence. Peace out.